What's up, House? How you doing? Saturday night. It's time for our secret sermon, secret teachings of Jesus. We're back reading the Nag Hammadi scriptures. I'm not a theologian. I wish I was. But I wanted to read some of the Gnostic Gospels, and I decided to start here. There's plenty. And I didn't know when I'd have time to do this, so I made this a weekly segment with us all together. So if you're wondering what the context around this is, that's what's going on. So no need to get in arguments about the validity or the controversy surrounding these scriptures. This is for fun and entertainment. And basically what I'll do is I will pick a portion and I will read it really poorly, and then we'll go back and we'll start unpacking it line for line. And I am just sort of like channeling the impressions that I'm getting as we're reading. I have gone back and checked in with like some of the chapter introductions before, and as it turns out, we've been right on track. So we're not that far off base, which is good. I'm proud of us. One other thing. Let's see. We started with the Gospel or the Book of James, which was really great. It's in the Secret Teachings of Jesus playlist. Jesus is a lot more present in like dialogues in the Book of James. But right now we have moved on to the Gospel of Philip. And so the Gospel of Philip is more like these small portions of really cryptic, like few sentences. And it's basically like a mental yoga to like just chew on and marinate and let kind of like work your mind. And just let the insight come forward through the subconscious. But yes, they're all very cryptic. They're encoded in a lot of Kabbalistic symbolism and metaphysical symbolism. So they've been fun to tackle. And there's actually a benefit of doing this late at night. It's not just because I get off work late on Saturdays, but the midnight hour and those wee hours of the morning are very powerful times of day in most like magical disciplines, but particularly the Hebrew sages used to study late at night because they believed that the veil was very thin and we had more direct access to downloading the light, which would, manifest as wisdom, discernment, understanding about what we were reading, and give us the ability to be able to sort of like ground that in and embody it without it causing a lot of chaos. Because when we take in the light, it's basically like this raw power, this raw energy, and it's like unadulterated form. And so when we take in that energy, sometimes depending on the time of day or the time of year or whatever, it might be like full force, or there might be some sort of like protection around it or a filter that makes it a little bit more gentle. So being up at midnight kind of helps take in a lot of understanding without having to go through a lot of process. Like difficult process out in life to be able to sort of like comprehend and embody and integrate the lessons and earn them, basically, because we want to earn the light. We're building the vessel, and so by that it's like we're strengthening our trust and deepening our self-worth and our self-love, and we are creating affinity with the light. We're becoming more like God. Okay, so this week's portion is called Will and Action. It is good to leave the world before one sins. Some have neither the will nor the strength to act. Others, even if they have the will, do themselves no good, for they have not acted. And if they do not have the will, righteousness is beyond their grasp in either case. It always comes down to the will, not the action. Ooh, let's see. We have a footnote. What does it say? The translation of this paragraph remains tentative. Thank you, very helpful. Go fuck yourself as well. So, I think it's good to preface this by explaining that from a Kabbalistic point of view, in each incarnation that we have in this lifetime, we are here, like we keep the same soul and spirit, and they keep going with us from life to life. And so we are born as like different representations of that. So we have different experiences. Like I'm the only Liz Taylor I'll ever be, but I've probably been other people. I have, I kind of, you might have memories of being in other times or whatever. So in each life, we have our soul that we've been carrying with us, and our soul has all of these different aspects and counterparts and different levels of strengths and weaknesses, and this is described in our natal chart, in our astrological natal chart. But so what we have is called Tikkune. It is similar to karma, but basically your tikkun is like your soul fingerprint, and it is like all of the assignments that you have, particularly relevant would be the ones in this life that you need to correct. But you could be correcting things in this life for your tikkun that happened in another life, right? So it's sort of like karma. It stretches across lifetimes. So sometimes we're like, why is this happening to me in this life? And we make jokes like, oh, what did I do in another life to deserve this? And like, there's really something to that. So in this life, we chose every aspect that is, would play an important key in shaping us or challenging us or strengthening us as people. We chose where we were going to be born, what city, what race we were, what gender, who like our parents were, the key players in our lives, like our key friends, lovers, these people that play huge roles in our coming about. And so we have these assignments with each other that we have to play out, and we're assigned to basically go into our shadow selves, into our subconscious, into all of those places where we can hide things or not see them, that create shells of negativity, right? That are called klipot. And so these shells of negativity encase our soul and spirit and sort of separate us from the direct absorption of the light. And so it's our job in each life to go through and heal wounds, correct our patterns, overcome our weaknesses, overcome our adversities, face challenges, do things that are outside of our comfort zone. All of these things, even go through pain, even go through things that are difficult, even go through things that are unpleasant or uncomfortable. All of these things serve to cleanse us of our negativity and break these shells and offload all of this, like in the scales of the light and the darkness, all of this pain and these things and these processes that we go through, if we allow them to actually digest and do something with it and do the alchemy, do the transformation, then it can offload your negativity, right? And it can decrease the judgment that you will, face, because it's not about like a personality God looking at you going like, well, that's bad and that's wrong. It's just that there's a set of there's a beautiful machinery to the universe. And there is sort of like an automated accountant out there, and like the actions that you take, there's cause and effect at play. And so you're either adding to the light or adding to the dark. You're either, coming to life with a destroyer consciousness or a creator consciousness. And, are you coming in a spirit of sharing, or are you coming with a taker consciousness? So all of these things that we do, that we use our free will for, But we only use our free will if we're awakened, if we're conscious, if we're present, right? If we're on default setting in reactive mode, then we're in an animalistic base instinct reaction mode. We're not in our divine human form using our free will, our divine inheritance, right? So we have to start using our free will to make choices that sort of do the soul correction, right? And so that is what it is meant in these sentences when it's talking about to act, right? So basically we're expected to come here and not just meander and burn time, but we actually have a mission. We have purpose. We have talents and things that we have to put to good use and purpose, but really it's all about our most intimate relationships and getting to know ourselves and on that soul journey and actually healing from within, and then using that healing and that insight that we're getting to actually share with the world and try to add good without preaching on people or forcing, right? Because everyone has their own process that we can't interrupt, and everyone has their own free will, right? Okay, so I think that's a pretty good preface. Okay, I know it's probably all just too much, but it'll all sink in and it'll make sense, and it probably does because everybody here's been, y'all are pretty smart, I think. Okay, so let's do this again. Will and action. It is good to leave the world before one sins. Some have neither the will nor the strength to act. Others, even if they have the will, do themselves no good, for they have not acted. And if they do not have the will, righteousness is beyond their grasp in either case. It always comes down to the will, not the action. So it is good to leave the world before one sins. So I think that this is saying, like, one of the definitions of sin that I remember hearing that stood out to me, and I can't remember whether this is the Greek or the Aramaic, I can't remember, but to sin is to miss the mark or to miss the point. It's like, it's better to leave the world before you've overstayed your welcome and done nothing with your time here. Like you never got it. You never woke up. You never had an awakening or like an aha and actually did something with it. Like, sinning would be going through life and missing the whole point of the whole thing. Missing the mark. Yeah, I mean, it could be like getting off your path. Like teshuva means to correct, get back on path. And so it would be like the opposite of that, that opposite of the atonement would be to be off path, right? And I think that the path really is the soul path, the paths of our journey to self-discovery by walking the path through our soul. Through the different aspects of the Godhead. I feel like I need to get our little map out. Hold on. We're getting the map. We're getting props. I'm back. Okay. So, on the tree of life, this is the macrocosm and the microcosm of existence. It is also like the macrocosm is the beautiful machinery of the universe. The microcosm is our soul. All of these circles are called Sphirot, and they are representing the different aspects of the Godhead. These are all different dimensions of the pure like light that is basically filtered through these different filtration systems. But these are the governing forces of reality, just split up. In between these circles, do you see these lines? These are paths. These are synonymous with the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet, which are the building blocks of reality. There are angels associated with these, or in other words, if you change the word angel out with powers. So powers of the soul that we can work with and inhabit and govern. Also, these are the lessons of the ascension of consciousness that are described in the 22 trump cards of the tarot, the major arcana. So these are the paths, right, that are being discussed there. When you would say off the path, or to be on the path, or to correct. So to miss the mark, I believe, would just be like to like not even be on the path, to like not bother with consciousness. You know, when Jesus said, I'm the way, the truth, and the light, it wasn't like he was like, be Beatlemania over me and have a bunch of like porcelain plates with me doing this. Like, it was like, listen to what I'm telling you. I'm trying to give you the steps to like enlightenment, to liberate your soul, to liberate your heart, to ascend your demons, right? To transcend those and to transmute and transform them into the powers, into the angels, right? So before we get too far down that rabbit hole, we've already had our charts come out, people. We're really rolling now. We're really serious. We've got props and like show and tells out. Okay. So it is good to leave this world before one sins. And so I think that it's not like that's just like one time. I think it's like, it is good to leave before like you have like got the scales so off balance that there's no coming back, right? Because all of life, we are in these energetic exchanges. And so whatever energy that we're putting out into the world, we're either adding to the negativity or we're adding to the positivity. If we're taking energy from things that don't belong to us, or going after like taking things or like forcing situations that aren't in alignment with us, and we're getting energy from it, then like that we're racking up a spiritual debt, an energetic debt. If we're doing destructive things that are harming ourselves and others, if we're creating chaos in the world and in our world, we're racking up a spiritual debt, right? So we have these things to pay back. And so sometimes it's like before we get off path so much that we have so much to pay back that there may be like, you know, consequences on the other side or whatever. It's like, hey, we're just going to like get you out of here before you do more damage, is basically what this is saying. It is good to leave the world before one sins. Some have neither the will nor the strength to act. And I think it is also good to say that I think before you are removed from the world, before you do any more damage, I think that there are many warning signs. I think you have a lot of grace and like chance after chance after chance. I would say you would have everything from minor nuisances to major like catastrophes going on all the time, and then like huge accidents, and then maybe like major illnesses, right? Like start paying attention. Is there something that you have like that you're like putting your head in the sand? Have you ever tried to start working on yourself? Like pay attention, start making an effort, right? Because it's the will, it's the effort and the will that count the most, right? It's not were you completely successful. It's like, did you have a heart to try, and did you act on that? Some have neither the will nor the strength to act. And so it's like some people kind of go through life and they don't care. They just are just like, fuck it, whatever. I don't care how my actions affect me or other people. I'm never going to change. They don't have the desire to, and they don't have the strength to follow through. They don't have the endurance. They don't have the backbone. They don't have whatever it's in within them. They just don't care. Some people have had so much abuse, or they've been living in survival mode, that they're probably just numb and they don't even know to care. Some people are like living in, isolation and darkness and have nothing to motivate them, or no awareness, nothing, no light showing them where to go or how to reach out. So they might have neither the will nor the strength to act. Others, even if they have the will, do themselves no good, for they have not acted. And those are people that know better, that they know that they should be, working on themselves, but they just don't have the motivation. They're like, maybe one day I'll get motivated. It'll be fine. Whatever. I'm good enough. Everything's good enough. They're like settling for status quo. But if they know that they should be doing something to grow or change, and they're not doing it on purpose, then they're doing more damage than had they not had the will or the knowledge or the strength. I think it's almost worse at that point. And if they do not have the will, righteousness is beyond their grasp in either case. And so if you don't have the desire, without the desire, we can't manifest anything. All manifestation comes from desire, because the desire is what keeps you driven to push past the inevitable resistance, the inevitable challenge. It's called Zoom Zoom, where you're pushing back against the light coming in. You're pushing back in resistance. It's part of the electromagnetic dance of reality. If that makes sense. Okay, yes. And if they don't have the will, then righteousness is beyond their grasp in any case. It's like you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. It's why you can't heal anyone else. You can't force anyone else to grow. They have to do it for themselves. They have to choose it for themselves. That's why Jesus is well, knock and the door's open. Seek and you shall find. It's I'm always here. All you have, I'm here on the other side of the door. You just have to open it, because it's Jesus would never push himself on others, because he was that's just tacky, just cheap. But he respected free will, right? It's up to you. Plus, you can't force someone to wake up. It has to happen. You can just plant the seed and hope it goes into some fertile soil. That's all you can really do. And so if somebody doesn't have the desire or the consciousness to turn on, then you can't do anything for them. It's not going to work. You can talk to them about stuff all day and they will never hear it. You can tell someone to drink water and they won't even believe you unless it's coming from someone else, right? It's sometimes there's nothing you can do, so you just put it out there, and if someone wants to ask about it or whatever, if they're oh, I noticed that you're getting along quite well, what are your secrets? Great. But yeah, that's all you can do. You heal yourself, and then it starts to change the world around you, because you're showing up differently. You're reacting differently. You're seeing things around you differently. You're seeing other people differently. So things will change in your atmosphere. It always comes down to the will and not the action. So yes, whatever it is, whether it's personal transformation, whether it's healing, whether it's overcoming your patterns, or addictions or what have you, it always comes down to your own will and your own desire. And if you don't have that willpower and that desire, then that's what you need to work on getting, because you will be fighting a losing battle and you will always be treading water, because the universe will not manifest something for you if you don't have desire. Remember, our thoughts and our visions are like the electrical signal that's going out, but it's our feelings, it's our passion, it's our love, it's our desire that are the magnet, right? And so if you are feeling sour and bitter and angry, your magnet is going to be sucking in sour, bitter, angry experiences. But if your magnet is, full of desire and love and passion and, inspiration and motivation and fortitude, then, you're going to be attracting better things. Okay, y'all, one more time. Let's read it through. Will and action. It is good to leave the world before one sins. Some have neither the will nor the strength to act. Others, even if they have the will, do themselves no good, for they have not acted. And if they do not have the will, righteousness is beyond their grasp. In either case, it will always come down to the will, not the action. Ooh, and I want to tell like a real anecdote, and I'm kind of conflicted because I like to respect people's privacy, and this is a family member who passed away, but he struggled with drugs, like hard drugs, for the entirety of his life, and died in his late 40s a couple of years ago. He, was the victim of abuse as a young child, so there were a lot of things that he struggled with. And so he was always fighting these battles and like struggling with his demons and also struggling with addiction. And so he had fairly self-destructive behavioral patterns, even though he's a very sweet and loving person, very nurturing and caring in a lot of ways. He just created a lot of chaos and destruction around him all the time. And it, is creating a lot of pain for those who cared about him and loved him as well, even though everybody just loved him and wanted the best for him and wanted him to have healing. There was really nothing we could do. It's like you could try and try and try. And so, throughout his life, I saw he had 1,000,000 times where he should have been in jail, in prison, probably dead and buried. Like, this person had more than 9 lives. I mean, just cheated death right and left. Cheated being trapped in the system right and left. Not cheated, but like in a good way, like in a divine providence. Like God had favor and grace for him, even though he didn't earn it. He was actually putting out all of those, that negativity that would be weighing you down, right? And still so much grace, so much favor. So God's grace really is endless, and so is his forgiveness. And even though we don't necessarily deserve it, we can have faith that the universe will always balance our scales back out for us. Now, before he died, he had stage 5 lymphoma, and I didn't even know you could get to stage 5. And he didn't even get to finish 2 rounds of chemo, because in the first round of chemo, he had perpetual pneumonia, which was really weakening his system, and he couldn't bear it. And then he had a heart attack, and he had to have open heart surgery from the stress of the chemo, and just the fact that his body wasn't in good shape from all the drugs, that he'd always been on. And so he survived open heart surgery. He survived like a constant pneumonia. He actually came back in full remission and healed from stage 5 lymphoma, and was a year out of all of this and had his results come back clean. So he had healed from cancer. We'd prayed for him and everything. And he just had never quite overcome some of his addictions. And so he was really trying in his own way, without maybe access to a treatment center. And he was trying to come off of like different kinds of pills like Valium and stuff. And so he was going through a lot of withdrawal and he couldn't sleep. And that was the worst thing for him, is that he just needed sleep, and he had been up for I don't know how long. So he thought if he could get some cocaine, he could like get really high and then crash. Well, he got bad cocaine, and we don't know what it was, but we think he accidentally got meth. And so we were just like, oh no, like we don't want him to be addicted to something that harsh, you know, after everything he's been through. You know, we were just so worried about him. And he was acting really erratically and really dangerously and just like really out of character for himself. And then one day we found out that he had overdosed on some bad stuff, like whatever, it wasn't like clean, whatever he was taking. And so it was like, even after all of the battle with cancer and all those years and all of that, I think that that was the last act of grace for him, because before he ended up hurting somebody else by accident, like in a car wreck or something, and he would have never forgiven himself. He was such a tender-hearted, loving person. Like, so before something like that happened, I think that he was taken in mercy. And I think it was this case. It's like, it is good to leave it is good to leave the world before one sins. Some have neither the will nor the strength to act. Others, even if they have the will, do themselves no good, for they have not acted. And if they do not have the will, righteousness is beyond their grasp in either case. It always comes down to the will, not the action. All right, you guys, I think that's it for tonight. I'm exhausted. I need to eat something. And I need to take a boiling hot shower. Because I didn't even talk about how I got my ass kicked at work tonight. Got it kicked so hard. So hard! I think I made one coffee. I didn't have any French press coffees tonight. Or at least I think the one that I had, it was very early in the evening. And it was that lady's birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to all of us. Oh, ciao, Bellas. Peace.